So Tom Steyer was in the middle of Bernie and Warren during their altercation. You can see the look of shock on his face. He doesn't. He's like a child when mom and dad are fighting, and he's looking around like, "What's happening, guys?" But after the debate, CNN was interviewing him, and they try to force him into telling them what he heard, and they get really upset when he doesn't comply.
I want to show this video that occurred at the end of the debate. You sort of ended up in the middle of this, I don't know, by chance or what. What was that like? What occurred there? It's already being talked about quite a lot.
Look, I was just going up to say good night, Senator Sanders.
Look at him. He is so innocent. He honestly looks like a giddy child. I'm not sure how he made $1.5 billion from scratch, unless if he's like a ruthless businessman behind the curtains.
And I felt like, okay, there's something going on here. Good night, I'm out of here.
What were they arguing? Were they?
I really wasn't listening.
What? How can you not hear
How
Bernie
could you not hear Bernie Sanders?
They were talking about getting together or something. I really didn't
Getting
listen.
together.
Were they talking about
Wasn't
getting together last year when they were?
It didn't look like they were getting together.
It was one of those awkward moments where I felt like, I need to
I felt
move
bad
on
for
as
you.
fast as possible.
So you didn't hear anything. You really didn't.
Look,
You really didn't hear anything? Come on, Steyer. We need to know so we could pollute the airway with more toxic garbage to slander Bernie.
you could see it's an awkward moment.
Right.
And that's what I could see. So my goal was simply to say good night to two people who I respect.
So
The last thing I wanted to do was get in between the two of them and try and listen in. That was not my goal, and I didn't do it.
I'm going to bring you
And here's Chris Cuomo, who is going to tell you who he thought won the night.
into a very big conversation. Sometimes the best thing that's happening in coverage happens in the commercial. And we're having a big debate about the difference between a journalist and a politician when it comes to Senators Warren and Sanders tonight and what happened at the end of the debate, which was, of course, a follow-through from probably the biggest moment of the debate, where Senator Warren really owned a moment about this back and forth about whether or not the absurd idea that women can't win for
Back and forth, whether or not this absurd idea that women can't win the election. There was no debate on whether or not women can win the election. There was zero debate, absolutely zero debate. The debate was on whether or not Bernie said that he thinks a woman cannot win a presidential election. And we were trying to decide if Warren is lying or if Bernie is lying. But the media keeps on saying Bernie and Warren argue over whether or not a woman can be president. Like, it's so
president. Warren turned it into a
infuriating.
huge plus by showing how she and Senator Amy Klobuchar were the only two real winners up on the stage tonight. In fact, saying that they had never lost to an incumbent Republican. All right, so I have Mayor
never lost to an incumbent Republican. And when Bernie Sanders brought up how he beat an incumbent Republican in 1990, and Warren was condescending towards him because she said, in the last 30 years, to try to exclude Bernie, I wish Bernie would have said, by the way, when I beat that Republican in 1990, you were a Republican. I wish he would have said that. I really wish.
Mitch
That
Landrieu
would have been great.
with me. We have Mayor Andrew Gillum, and we have former Governor Jennifer Granholm. Now, this discussion we're having is Tom Steyer at the end was right there when Warren and Sanders were talking to each other. As a reporter, I know that he knows what they said. And I say, I would want to know what he said. And I wouldn't let him say, I don't want to talk about it. You had said, Mitch, I'd never tell you.
I wouldn't tell you either.
Why not?
Yeah.
Well, because it was a private conversation that
Right.
they were having
It's
in front of
happening on
America.
the
Come on,
stage.
it's right in front of
We got code. No.
A private conversation. Go backstage.
But I would not have lied to you if you said, did you hear what they said? I would have said yes, but I'm not going to tell you because if they intended for you to hear it, they would have said it over the microphone.
Boy, a reporter wants to know. All right, so in terms of what that moment meant,
There's a chance he didn't hear it. Like, were you ever in a situation? I mean, no one's really in situations like this, but when you're in front of a crowd like that and you're saying, like, good game, even after, like, a sporting event, you aren't always in there listening to what is being said exactly. And Tom Steyer, he was looking back and forth like he looked confused. He really did.
I thought the genius of it, Governor, was Senator Warren saying, I know what you want me to talk about. I'm going to turn this into a way bigger point that speaks to the truth of the proposition about women in politics and distinguished her and Klobuchar. What'd you think of the play?
He just positioned it as if Warren was the one under attack. As if Warren was saying, I know what you want me to talk about. I'm going to flip the script on you, CNN. CNN and Warren, and Aaron Burnett actually admitted this. The campaign and CNN made a deal that if they leaked this story yesterday to CNN, that CNN would create this moment for her in the debate.
Best moment of the night, clearly.
I agree.
Yeah, it really was. And, I think that it gave, for women who were watching, it was this big moment of feeling of pride that, yeah, that's right. These two women, they are winners. And
I did not. I mean, any women I've spoken to about this event did not feel that.
other guys, they've been losers. So, it made us women, feel like, yeah, that was great. No, it was a brilliant move. I was kind of surprised that, I knew that there would be a question about it. I was kind of surprised that she went as far as she did. And on Twitter, the Bernie
She had a prepared speech.
folks are just like,
Oh,
really,
no, she's talking about the Bernie folks.
I knew that there would be a question about it. I was kind of surprised that she went as far as she did. And on Twitter, the Bernie folks are just
Bernie folks.
really not happy.
But if
with
you
her.
think about it, she was so smart with how she handled it. She didn't come back at him in an aggressive way and say, listen,
No.
you're a
Come
liar.
back at him?
You don't know what
Very
you're talking
gracious.
about. She was very gracious, but then she came up with a talking
Gracious?
point that I think you'll see
Came
all
up?
day tomorrow.
She had it prepared.
Let's talk about it, but also let's speak to it. Here is the moment that we're talking about.
Anybody knows me, knows that it's incomprehensible that I would think that a woman could not be president of the United States. If any of the women on this stage or any of the men on this stage win the nomination, I hope that's not the case. I hope it's me. But if they do, I will do everything.
Look at her smile for a second, laughing at Bernie's joke, and she brings back to a frown. Watch this.
Women on this stage or any of the men
Well, watch
on
her
this
closely.
stage win the nomination. I hope that's not the case. I hope it's me.
Look at her,
But if
look at her
they
smile.
do, I will do everything
back to it,
in
see?
my power to make sure that they are
Because she
elected.
knows that this is all fake. If it was really that big of an issue, what Bernie said to her over a year ago, she would not have been buddy-buddy with him for the past year. It's,
in order to
we all know
defeat the
this.
most dangerous president in the history of our country.
Can a woman beat Donald Trump? Look at the men on this stage. Collectively, they have lost 10 elections. The only people on this stage who have won every single election that they've been in are the women, Amy and me.
All right, so small problem, big problem, Andrew. Small problem is somebody's not telling the truth in this back and forth, right? Because either Elizabeth Warren misheard or misremembers, what's the chance of that? Or Senator Sanders said something in a different context that he doesn't want to now own. Small problem. Big problem is the senator's right. And to the governor's point, they don't have any huge winner up on that stage. And the guy who's been at the head of the polls longest has run for president unsuccessfully multiple times.
Sure.
What does that tell you about the main metric? We have someone who can beat the president as Democrats.
Well, first, I mean, one, they will have to figure out what was truth and what wasn't. What I found
Or will they
impressive-
leave it alone, and then when we ask, they'll say, stop asking
Well,
these questions.
unfortunately, the exchange at the end there is going to cause all of us to wonder what is still
Right,
lingering.
right.
The good thing about what she did is I thought she leapfrogged the small part and basically said, I know that this is in the ether. There are a lot of people out there who are saying and making the argument, frankly, it's the biggest argument against her right now, which is whether or not this country will elect a woman.
The biggest argument against Warren is whether or not the country will elect a woman. Oh!